And now, here's the host and star of our show, Flip Wilson.
Thanks, gentlemen. Thank you. And before we start, I'd like for you men to do me one favor. If this is an amphibious base, give me a warning before it goes into the water. A little light warning. Let me tell you what happened last night. I was invited over to the officers' club. And I go into the club, I have a ball, you know. And as I'm leaving the club, I'm standing there in front of the club. A guy walks up, he hands me a set of keys and $2. He says, it's a green convertible. Make it snappy, will you? After I told him who I was, he gave me another $1. You know, you guys are doing all right. The food's great, beautiful weather. Yeah, I was just reading in the paper last week. You got your second pay raise in 4 years. Boy, that Muhammad Ali doesn't know what he's missing, you know that? And I got to compliment you on the way you drive those boats up on the beach for the landings. That's beautiful. My uncle was in the Navy. In fact, he holds the record for driving a boat inland. He drove a boat further inland than anyone else in the history of the Navy. And that's really something when you consider the boat was a heavy cruiser. Yeah, the brass didn't like it. And my uncle didn't care about them not liking it. And the brass didn't care about my uncle not caring whether they liked it. Man, he was the only sailor in the history of the Navy who was put in the mothballs. You know, I heard today, that there's a special training unit on the base called the SEALs. And they're fantastic. They're a combination frogmen, paratroopers, and commandos. In fact, I heard one was so tough he single-handedly blew up a battleship, 2 destroyers, and his commander said if he keeps it up, they're gonna send him overseas. Yesterday, I went back to the hotel for lunch. You know, we had a lunch break. I went back to the hotel, and as I'm passing the barber shop, I noticed one of the guys from the base here was in the barber shop getting his hair cut. An officer comes in. He says, say, fella, what are you doing? You're getting your hair cut on Navy time. The guy said, well, my hair grew on Navy time. The captain said, well, not all of it. He said, that's why I'm only getting a trim. And in the bar last night, there were 2 guys in the bar. I'm sitting at the bar, you know, having a little... And one of the guys says to the fellow next to me, he said, look, he said, I just got in town. Last weekend was my first weekend here in town. He said, great town. He said, you know, I had a date with 3 girls Friday. The fellow said, you did? What were their names? He said, well, he said, there was Ethel, Shirley, and Fido. The fellow said, Fido? He said, Fido sounded like a dog. He said, if you think Fido was a dog, you should have seen Ethel and Shirley. I gotta check the time. I don't want to stay on too long. You know, like, I'm having fun, but I found that staying on too long, which is the big hazard in being a comic, you know, can lead to a hostile audience. And I had a hostile audience about a month ago. I'm on a show. Before the show, I've been given 15 minutes. I go out and I got a thing going with the audience. I'm killing them. One constant uproar, like now. So I stretched it. I stayed on about 50 minutes. Then the room got very quiet. I say to myself, what's wrong? And a voice said, you've been on too long. I didn't want the audience to realize that I'd suddenly become aware of it. So to keep my image up, I stayed on about another 40 minutes. The audience was very cool. They sat there. And when I finished, they got up, paid their checks, and left. Then when I went to the parking lot to get in my car, the audience was hiding in the parking lot. 700 people crouched down behind the cars. They jumped out, attacked me. It was rough. I got a description of one. I gave it to the police. They got him. But now I got to find a new manager.